deep dive today based on the source material you sent over, looking at these, well, really ancient concepts: chi, subtle energy, traditional geomancy.
Fascinating stuff.
Yeah, and trying to see how they might connect to our world now. Yeah, the cities, the tech, everything.
Right.
So our mission here is really to unpack what these sources are suggesting, especially this link they propose between that old energy wisdom and our, well, concrete jungles. We want to pull out the most interesting, maybe the most useful insights for you.
Sounds good. It's quite a connection they're drawing.
Okay, let's unpack this. So maybe start us off with the basics. What exactly is chi, according to these sources?
Okay, so chi. The sources describe it as the fundamental life force, not just, air or breath, but the actual subtle energy that animates everything. The universe, us, tiny particles, everything.
And it's moving, not static.
Crucially, yes. It's dynamic, always described as vibrating, flowing, oscillating, constant motion, never still.
Got it. And the sources mentioned it flows in us too. Through meridians, was it?
Absolutely. In the body, chi is said to circulate through these specific channels, these meridians, basically nourishing our organs, influencing our physical health, but also our consciousness.
So healthy flow means vitality.
That's the idea. Vitality, clarity. But importantly, the sources stress it's not just in the body, it extends outwards.
To the environment.
Exactly. Every place, every single object, even interactions between things, they all have their own energetic signature, their own kind of key quality.
Okay, so environmental chi. That sounds like where traditional geomancy comes in. Feng shui, dragon lines. How do the sources explain those?
Right, dragon lines or long mai, they're really foundational in traditional geomancy. The sources paint them as like the Earth's vital arteries and veins.
Energy pathways.
Powerful currents of chi flowing across the land. They often talk about mountain dragons, the lines flowing through mountain ranges, and water dragons, where waterways guide or amplify the flow. Think of them as the planet's main energy conduits.
Like an invisible circulatory system for the Earth's energy. And some spots are more powerful than others.
Precisely. Where these currents meet or pool, you get what they call dragon's caverns, or sui. These were seen as incredibly potent spots.
Why potent?
Because they accumulate huge reserves of this vital beneficial chi. So ancient geomancers saw these sui as the absolute best places, super auspicious for building, for living.
So traditional geomancy. It was about reading the land, finding these spots, and then aligning human structures, homes, temples, whole cities maybe, with these natural beneficial energy flows.
That's it, exactly. It was about harmonizing with what was already there.
Harmonizing with nature's energy grid, essentially.
Yeah. The core idea was sensitive awareness and then alignment with the Earth's natural currents, responding to the environment.
Okay, but then things change. Radically. We didn't stay in agrarian societies tied to the land. We built cities. Massive ones.
And that, according to the sources, is where the whole energetic landscape just transforms. The city is presented as a completely new kind of energetic environment.
Different from nature.
Fundamentally different. Even the materials we use, steel, concrete, glass, they interact with energy in ways that wood, earth, stone just don't.
How so?
Well, steel, for instance, they talk about it potentially modifying the electromagnetic environment, sort of like a partial Faraday cage effect, maybe. And concrete, its sheer density can create areas where energy feels stagnant or heavy.
So the physical structure alone shifts the energy field. And it's not just the buildings, is it? It's us. All the people.
Oh, absolutely. The sources introduce this really interesting concept, anthropogenic chi.
Human-generated chi.
Sort of, yeah. It's the incredibly dense, collective energetic imprint of millions of people's thoughts, emotions, intentions, actions, all packed together in a city.
Sounds intense.
It's described as often chaotic, definitely complex, but also, interestingly, they acknowledge it as a potential source of huge creativity and innovation, too. It forms this palpable layer within what some might call the psychic grid.
Wow. Okay, so buildings, human energy, and then there's this other thing the sources mention, which I find a really striking term, digital dragons.
It is evocative, isn't it? It's basically a metaphor for all the invisible electromagnetic fields, EMFs, and radio waves that just saturate our cities now.
Like Wi-Fi, cell signals.
Power lines, cell towers, Wi-Fi, all our devices. Everything. From this subtle energy perspective in the sources, it's framed as this constant bath of artificial electromagnetic radiation, essentially energetic noise or static.
Noise. Why noise?
Well, it's often high frequency, it's everywhere, and it's described as chaotic. It lacks the sort of organic, resonant rhythms you might find in natural fields like the Earth's own magnetic field.
So you've got the city structures, the collective human psychic energy, this blanket of artificial EMF noise. Plus, didn't the sources also mention things like smog and noise pollution adding to it all?
Yes, those are definitely mentioned as contributing factors. They add to the overall energetic density and disruption.
Okay, so taken all together, these urban energies, the sources frame them as, what was it, spiritual hazards.
That's the term used, yes. An environment that can really challenge our subtle body's natural coherence, its vitality, its ability to flow properly.
Right, that poses a huge challenge then.
Yeah.
If ancient wisdom was about harmonizing with natural flow, how on earth does that apply in this noisy artificial landscape? The sources aren't suggesting we all just pack up and leave the cities, are they?
No, definitely not. And that's really the crucial pivot point they introduced, this idea of the modern geomancer. The shift isn't about trying to simply avoid or shield yourself from all the urban turmoil.
So not just hiding from it.
No, it's about active engagement. And even more, it's about transmutation.
Transmutation.
Changing it.
Yes, there's this provocative idea that the city, despite its challenges, can actually be seen as a kind of crucible.
A crucible, like for refinement.
Exactly. It's tough, yes, but potentially an environment that could refine, strengthen, even evolve our subtle body's ability to interact with energy.
Okay, so this is way beyond just, say, putting up some EMF shielding paint or something. Oh, significantly more. I mean, physical shielding might mitigate certain physical inputs, sure, but this perspective is about developing an inner capacity, the ability to consciously interact with these urban energies, to filter them, and ultimately to transmute them from within.
So you're not just blocking the energy, you're working with it.
That's the proposal. That this raw urban energy, the anthropogenic chi, the digital emissions, isn't just seen as a contaminant you have to get rid of. The sources suggest it can be understood as potentially potent energy in itself. Energy that, if you engage with it correctly, could be leveraged, repatterned, maybe even utilized.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting then. If the city is this crucible, and the goal is this transmutation, how? How do the sources suggest we actually do that? What are the tools for this urban alchemy?
Well, the sources put a really strong emphasis on strategically bringing specific resonant materials into our living and working spaces.
Resonant materials.
Yeah, materials that have particular energetic properties. And they're not just seen as, nice decorations. They're presented as quite sophisticated energetic tools, catalysts, organizers designed specifically to work within this modern urban energy soup.
Okay, what kind of materials are we talking about?
They mention several types, and the key is how they work together in synergy. First, they talk about high vibration materials.
What do those do?
These are things like certain crystals or minerals that naturally resonate at higher frequencies. Their job is basically to elevate the overall quality of the chi in a space, like energetic purifiers, clearing the air, making it easier for consciousness or creativity to flow.
Okay, so they lift the vibe, basically.
You could say that, but you need balance, right? So they stress grounding materials are also essential.
Grounding? Like connecting to the earth.
Exactly. These act as energetic anchors. They help connect the space and you within it back to the Earth's more stable natural field. This helps draw off any excess or chaotic energy, gives you stability, that centered feeling you need to process all the city's input without getting totally overwhelmed.
Makes sense. Elevate and ground. What else?
Then you have conductive materials. These are all about facilitating flow.
Keeping the energy moving.
Right. They act a bit like energetic wiring, making sure that the chi, once it's been sort of purified and grounded, can actually circulate efficiently through the space, prevents things getting stuck, energetically stagnant.
Okay. High vibration, grounding, conductive.
Mm-hmm.
And the sources seem to really single out one type as being particularly important, pivotal even.
Yes, absolutely. The naturally magnetic materials, sometimes called the magnetic organizer. This is really highlighted as a key piece of the puzzle.
Why magnetic? What's special about that?
Because their inherent magnetic fields are believed to actively organize and direct ki within their range. Think about it. You're in this environment saturated with chaotic, random frequencies, the EMFs, the radio waves, those digital dragons.
Right, the noise.
The The insight here is that a stable, coherent magnetic field can actually impose some order on that chaos. They're described almost like energetic conductors, but ones that can take that seemingly random noise from artificial EMFs and help repattern it
Repattern it into what?
into more coherent, potentially even usable energetic flows. They bring structure where there was chaos. That's the core idea.
Wow. So the real alchemy isn't just one material doing one thing, it's how they all work together.
Precisely. That's the synergy they describe. The high vibration materials purify, the grounding materials stabilize, the conductive materials keep it flowing, and then the magnetic materials actively organize and direct, especially dealing with those chaotic artificial inputs.
So they don't just block the noise.
No, the potential suggested is that they help convert that environmental noise into a more structured, maybe even beneficial, energetic signal that our own subtle body can actually work with, rather than just being battered by it. It's an active, filtering, organizing, transforming process.
Okay, this is fascinating. Let's bring this right back home then.
Yeah.
What does all this mean for you? Listening right now, why should you care about digital dragons and this whole modern geomancy idea?
Well, because according to these sources, this approach connects directly to your own individual well being, your resilience, your potential for growth, especially if you live or work in a city.
How so?
They suggest that really strategically using these ideas, these materials, can lead to, well, significantly enhanced energy circulation in your own subtle body.
So better energy flow in me, not just around me.
Exactly. Think about revitalizing your energy centers, like the chakras, clearing out stagnation, distributing that vital force, that chi, more effectively throughout your system.
Okay, so more personal energy, more vitality.
Yes, and they propose that this improved flow can actually support deeper states of consciousness, more clarity, more focus. Even when you're surrounded by the hustle and bustle of city life, it helps build energetic resilience.
Resilience.
Yeah.
Like being less drained by the city.
Right. Allowing your subtle body to adapt, maybe even thrive, amidst the constant energy demands instead of just feeling depleted or scrambled by them. The city, in this view, becomes less of an energetic drain.
And more of a, what was that phrase? A laboratory for energetic evolution?
That's the one. It's a powerful concept, isn't it? It suggests finding strength within the challenges, not just by trying to escape them.
Yeah, it really reframes the whole urban experience.
It does. It points towards potentially having a deeper, maybe less filtered connection to the whole psychic grid of the city. Finding wisdom, finding vital energy within modern reality itself, rather than feeling you have to constantly retreat to nature to recharge, although that's important too, of course.
And how might that manifest? Like, practically?
Well, the sources hint at things like developing new forms of intuition, maybe one specifically attuned to navigating urban complexities, or perhaps enhanced empathy, but in a way that allows you to process the collective energy without being overwhelmed by it.
And creativity, you mentioned that earlier.
Yes, creative inspiration that might tap directly into the city's dynamic, even its chaotic pulse, finding the creative potential within the buzz.
And how does that creative aspect specifically link back to the materials, especially those magnetic ones you emphasized?
Well, the idea is that if your own energy system is balanced and actively circulating, you become a much more efficient conduit for creative ideas for manifestation.
A clearer channel.
Exactly, and the unique ability that's proposed for these naturally magnetic materials to organize and direct chi, particularly by repatterning those environmental inputs, is thought to help channel that flow effectively. They could, in essence, help direct this revitalized energy and information towards the energetic centers linked with communication, innovation, bringing ideas into reality, making it easier to translate abstract thoughts into, well, concrete creative expression.
This has been a really, really interesting deep dive into the material you shared with us.
It truly has. I think the core takeaway, the insight from these sources, is that this ancient wisdom about chi and energy flow, it's not suddenly obsolete just because we live in cities with Wi-Fi.
It just needs adapting.
Exactly. It requires adaptation. It requires viewing the modern urban environment not just as a problem, but as a unique challenge that can be met. And using these strategic tools, especially resonant materials like the magnetic organizers, offers a way to actively transmute that chaotic urban energy, those digital dragons.
Turning them from a hazard into something potentially beneficial.
Potentially converting them into forces that can actually support our well-being.
And the potential results they suggest are pretty significant. Better vitality, maybe deeper consciousness, definitely greater energetic resilience, and this more dynamic, integrated kind of creativity that actually works with the city's energy, not just fighting against it.
Precisely. It's really a paradigm shift that they're proposing, moving from just trying to survive urban energy to consciously engaging with it, transforming it for our own evolution, and maybe even potentially for collective evolution too.
Well, thank you again for sharing the source material that let us have this fascinating discussion.
It was our pleasure. A lot to think about there.
Definitely. So here's maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on, building on everything we've talked about today. If we really can consciously design our spaces, both physical and energetic, to transmute chaotic energy, if we can use tools like these magnetic materials to repattern urban noise into something more coherent, more usable, what might the implications be? Not just for our own individual resilience or creativity, but maybe for the collective evolution of consciousness, right here within our increasingly technological world.